Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. Thanks for coming. Welcome, welcome. If you've joined us before, welcome back. If this is your first time joining us, my name is Jervy. I'm one of the two program coordinators for the Empowering Financial Wellness Program. This webinar is brought to you by Utah State University Extension with a partnership with the Utah Department of Workforce Services. Joining me today is Vincenza. You've heard from her before if you've joined us before. So you'll hear from her again. You always hear from both of us. I hope you don't, I hope that you enjoy hearing from us. We also have Christy Lynn joining us today. We love having her. She's gonna help us with the chat. If you have any questions at all during or thoughts or anything you want to share during our webinar, feel free to put that in the chat and we'll have a conversation going there, and Christy Lynn will be there as well, answering any questions that you might have. So today we are going to talk about organizing. Who loves organizing? This lady right here seems like on the PowerPoint seems like she has a lot to organize, but she seems like she's winning it. So that's our goal today. We'll win over the battle with paperwork. So what we're gonna do today is, we recognize that paperwork might be overwhelming your life. So we hear you, we totally hear you. This is a two-part organization tips series. So this is part one. We have part two on April 5th. So if you haven't registered for that, we invite you to register. Go to USU finance.usu.edu/EFW to register for that. April 5th is part two of this two-part webinar series on organization. But today we are going to help you with some organization tricks that will help you pull the right paperwork, right? Every time you need it. So our objectives today is to learn where to store documents for secure safekeeping, because we don't just want to be keeping them, right? We want to keep them safe because these are important documents. We're also going to learn how long you need to keep your financial records and other important documents, and how to go green, right? Because we want to save trees. We want to leave less footprint. So we are also going to talk about how to stay organized with all these important documents without having to print them over and over if we don't have to. Okay, so we are going to have a little game. Okay, you ready? Nobody leave, nobody cheat. Stay where you are until the timer starts, but start thinking about where these items are right now in your house or wherever you are right now, where you're joining us from. By the way, before I forget, if you haven't done so already, I think Christy Lynn has already asked some of you to do that. If you could put your name in the chat, tell us where you're joining us from, that would be great. We'd love to know where our friends are tuning in from. Okay, so wherever you are right now, think about where your IDs are, where your coupons are, if you have coupons around your house, a piece of unopened mail, and if it's not open, if it's been opened, that's fine, if that's what you can find, a gift card and a membership card. Okay, so we are going to give you 2 minutes, right? 2 minutes to find a form of ID other than your driver's license, a coupon, a piece of mail, a gift card, and a membership card. Okay, and your 2 minutes starts now. Go. This is when I tell my children, go, run like you're in trouble. And whoever brings in the most items in the shortest amount of time will get you a prize. We won't tell you what it is yet, but you'll get a prize from us for sure.
Oh, somebody's done.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who's back?
Look in the chat.
Oh, Okay. I'm trying to open the chat.
Can you list those items again?
um, an ID other than their driver's license, a coupon, a piece of mail, a gift card, and a membership card. Oh, Jessica, Colin. Okay, who, all of it? Who was the first to say done? How do you say your name? Daedric? Is that how you say your name?
Daedric from Layton.
Daedric and Layton. Okay.
Yes, yes, that is how you say it, but it's different. Sorry.
Oh, what is your name?
Elizabeth.
Oh, hi, Elizabeth.
So
Okay. Is everybody back?
I hope so.
Okay, we have 10, 9, 8. Happy New Year. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and done. Pass your papers. Okay. Okay, question. So Elizabeth, you're the
Yes.
first one to get all of it gathered, right?
Okay. Yeah.
How
So
were you?
maybe tell us what you have, what you found.
Yeah, did you
Well,
get
I have
all 5?
Yeah, I have my gift card. I have my ID other than the driver's license, my mail. I have the what was it? The membership card, and what was the other one you had?
Yeah, so
The
tell us the
coupon,
form.
the coupon right here. Yeah, it's
Tell
all
us-
in one bag. That's the thing.
Oh,
There you
okay.
go. So that's her
Yeah.
strategy.
Yeah.
It's all in the same bag. So
Yes.
question, for all those who who were able to gather these things quickly, was that the same situation for all of you? Was it all in the same place or within arm's reach? Maybe you're on your desk or something like that. Is that why it was easy for you that was quick for you to get all those things together in that short amount of time?
Kimberly says yes.
Okay.
So does Jessica, and Colin says no. But yeah.
So here's the thing. The challenge now then is, will you be able to do this in the same pace if it were important documents like birth certificates, passports, your mortgage, a copy of a deed to your home, your your car title? Say even 10 minutes. If I gave you 10 minutes, if it was an earthquake like last year, right?
Yes.
We have this big earthquake last year. Will you be able to do the same thing? Right? If
Yes.
yes, awesome, congratulations.
No.
If not, then we have some great tips for you today. And even if you're able to, this is one of those things that we call it evergreen content. It's something that you will always be using, no matter your circumstances are. So like we said earlier, today we are going to talk about where to store your documents, right? We're going to talk about how long you should keep them, and going green. So now I'm gonna give the time to Vincenza, and she's going to take us through where to store these things. Okay.
Okay, so we played this little game just to kind of see, make it fun, and also like think about like what if there was a fire or a disaster or an emergency. How quickly could you gather this information? If you suddenly became ill and you needed to depend on somebody else, if maybe you handle most of the financial or household affairs, and so how would you be able to get that information quickly? Or you had to evacuate your home, where would you run to grab the most important things? Or unfortunately, somebody passes away unexpectedly. A lot of times families are left kind of in a frenzy, like they don't know where everything is or where to find stuff. So that's why it's important that we talk about where to store documents. So one of the first things that we want to talk about is And a lot of these, it's a personal preference. So some people like to keep things in a bank safety deposit box. You can also consider just purchasing a home safe and somewhere you could keep it locked. And most banks have safety deposit boxes, also credit unions. I actually did a little research and called around local area just to see, because we don't have as many customers actually going into banks anymore. But a lot of banks still do have safety deposit boxes. So the main reason to have a safety deposit box, it's to protect your valuables. And keep in mind that banks vary in terms of how protected they are. But generally they're fire resistant, they're protected against floods and other natural disasters. But regardless of the level of protection, the safes themselves are more secure, they're more heavily guarded. You need a key, a bank personnel has to have the key, it requires 2 keys to open it. And they're generally better protected than if they were left in your home. And the easiest way to determine whether or not you need a safe deposit box is by collecting the things that you'd put inside. Like, what would you put in there? These are some suggestions of some things that, and it's typically because they're difficult to replace. Some more difficult than others. And you might find that you have a lot of important documents or valuable possessions that you want to put in a safe deposit box at the bank. Or you may, when you go through your things, you might say, I don't really have a whole lot of stuff. Maybe it's not worth it for me. But either way, it does give you the opportunity to kind of go through your stuff and organize your financial documents. So these are just some suggestions of things that you might want to keep in there. But there are always pros and cons to everything. So just keep in mind, when you're using a secure storage location, if you're going to be using a safe deposit box, remember that you can only access it during banking hours. Sometimes that's only Monday through Friday. There are a lot of bank holidays. Not all banks are open on Saturdays. So what if you had an emergency and you had to get to something in there? That's why we also say don't store the only copy of an important document in a safe deposit box, because if you needed it in the event of an emergency and the bank's closed, what do you do? Also, it can be convenient for some people aren't comfortable with digital storage for some documents. So that's an option out there for folks that aren't comfortable with digital storage. It's private, what's in your safe deposit box. Only you are going to know what's in it, not even the bank's going to know, and only people that you give access to. So usually they recommend having a coalescer for your box, but just be very careful about making sure you assign the right, the best person for you. They are protected from theft. They're kept locked in a locked vault that's secured against unauthorized access. And then if you tell your family members that you have one, they would know where to find your valuable documents in the event you become incapacitated or you die. Just be aware that the contents inside of a safe deposit box are not FDIC insured like money that you put in a bank. And they're also not going to be covered by a bank's private insurance in the event of a theft, which, highly unlikely, but there is that possibility that something happened to the building. So again, you wouldn't be covered by any private insurance that the bank has. Also, access can be denied due to like freeze of bank assets or the result of some IRS action or civil litigation to collect on a debt. And then banks do charge. I made some phone calls just in the local area, and it was annual rental fees. It was more reasonable than I thought. Like for the smallest box, which I believe was like a 3x5, it's $39 a year at one local bank I called. And then if you want the largest one, they said was a 10x15, that's $159. You don't even have to be, in my research, you didn't even have to be a bank customer. Like, I don't have an account with this bank, but I said, oh, you can still open a safe deposit box. Obviously, if you're a customer, they give you an incentive. They say, if we can automatically take that money out of your account every year, you save $5 a year, whether you go with the smallest one. Be advised, it's really important to keep that key safe, because I asked, well, what happens if I lose the safe? I lose the key. And they said, well, we have to call a local locksmith. We have to make an appointment. They have to come in. They have to drill the box. And then we have to pay $200 to fix that, to make that service call. So it's really important that you keep that, that key safe. And then the other thing you can do is you can have like at home, you can have a fireproof safe or some kind of vault. And then the benefit, really the only way to benefit from using this is to know what do you need to store in there. So these are, again, some suggestions that you see here on the page that you might want to keep in there. Again, there's pros and cons to that. It's portable. It could be more convenient if you have a small one than a really large safe. If you had to grab it and run out of your house, they're usually waterproof, but leaks can happen if there's a flood. So they do say that if you're putting in important documents, add a second layer of protection, putting it in like some kind of plastic bag. I've also seen online that they look like plastic file folders or envelopes, but they're actually supposed to be fireproof and waterproof. So again, just a second layer of protection. They're not very expensive. You can, inexpensive fireproof safes run anywhere from, $20 to $30 for a really small one. And there's a whole range of products out there. Something within the $50 to $200 range usually satisfies most people's needs. And then these are some documents we talked about, some important documents that you want to put in there. Just want to make a note about wills. If you're going to put a will in there, financial experts do recommend that it's best to have it in more than one place, not just there. Like consider putting a copy in a fireproof safe, a lock cabinet, a safe deposit box. Again, having more than one and having it accessible if it's needed. Birth certificates, marriage certificates, divorce decrees. And now I was thinking about the other day, for those of you that are planning to get immunized, having your immunization card, that might be something that's really important to make sure we don't lose it and we keep it safe. Keeping some bank and financial information, mortgage documents, medical documents, other than your than your immunization cards. Again, think about in the event of an emergency, if somebody could just quickly go and pull and find these important documents. You can also put inside a safe like a thumb drive or some kind of hard data drive where you could store information if you're going to be storing like maybe family photos or making digital copies of your documents. Again, you could just grab that and you'd have it all in one little, what's the word I'm looking for? in one spot, in one place. And then also think about maybe pet records, their veterinary, their medical checkups, passports. And then you can also think about having a lockable file cabinet. That's another place where you could be storing things. So maybe for less critical paperwork, like some financial statements, maybe your recent tax returns, maybe some school stuff, if you're in school, or stuff for your kiddos, important receipts, things that have warranties that you want to be able to access to, pretty quickly. And then again, it's for keeping paperwork that you want to have it organized, but it's not so important that you would need to carry it if you had to flee your home in the event of an emergency. So Jeremy's going to take over and talk to you about, we've been talking about all of these important documents. And maybe when you're going through it, you're kind of thinking about, well, what's considered important and how long, or rather, how long do I need to keep? Because I had this problem where I was keeping like everything. Because I was not sure what I needed to keep. So Jeremy's going to go over some ideas of how long you should keep important documents.
Okay, so this is not an exhaustive list, right? Again, we go back to the idea, it's your stuff. So you get to decide what you want to keep, what you want to toss, but then there's standards, right? That for a specific document, this is what you need to keep permanently. And then there are things where you keep it for a time being until they're not relevant anymore, or they're not, you don't need them anymore. So basically, and this list, this chart even suggests where you would put them. Say like your title, these are the things. If these items are they have one asterisk, right? These are your items to keep permanently, right? And then some of these things, you might just keep them for the duration of your ownership or until it's updated or it's not relevant anymore. Say you don't own it anymore, you disposed of it. Say your car title, of course, that title goes away if you sell the title, right? Which reminds me of a title that we lost and we sold our car and we filled out that form, right? We moved a lot. Here's another story of mine. We moved a lot, and we came back to Utah, we paid off the car and we were going to sell it, right? We went to the dealership. They said, oh, that's fine, just fill out this form and we'll send it to the DMV, and we'll take care of it, we'll find the title. Don't worry. 2 weeks later, we still didn't get paid, and they call us and they say, by the way, the title that Utah DMV has is not valid, because when you move to a different state, it just so happened that that state will give you a different title, and that should have been the title that we get. It was 3 weeks before we got paid for that car. So lesson learned, do not lose your title, especially if you move a lot and you have a lot of boxes that you're moving. So those are some of it's just an example where it's really, really inconvenient when you lose something important like that. Okay. Bank statements, keep them for a year if you print them out, right? Now they send you, e-statements if you sign up for those. If you go to the bank, some banks will print you a maximum of 3 months, and then every other month that you ask for on top of that will be an extra charge. Some banks will do that. Medical bills, keep them for at least a year if they're paid and not disputed. When my second son was born, he was in the NICU and it was a $50,000 plus bill, and insurance, not insurance, the hospital kept sending us a bill, and I'm like, insurance already paid for this. So until that died down, nobody's calling me anymore. That's the only time, and I think I still kept it even. It just makes me paranoid that somebody will call me and ask me to pay $50,000. So like we said, it just depends how comfortable you are. Some things you might wanna keep for forever. Some things, based on best practices, you can throw away.
Can I share a story, JV,
go
about
ahead.
keeping things? So
Yeah.
I had a lot of student loans, and I don't know if some of you may have had this experience where your student loan servicer, it keeps changing. A lot of times loans like mortgages and student loans keep getting resold.
Yeah.
So that's what happened with an undergraduate student loan I had, and it had gotten resold so many times. By the time the last person that bought or had the information, they didn't have complete information. And so something like almost 8 years after I graduated, it showed up on my credit report as a collection.
Wow.
And I was like, no, I paid that off like 8 years ago. And so I had to hustle to try to find the proof because I hadn't kept the payoff letter. I mean, who would have thought? So that was when I paid off my graduate school loans, I made sure that I kept laminated that payoff letter forever, just because you never know. And even though you think it's all good. So it was just a hassle. And the information was so old that the bank that I was paying through didn't even have my information, because I was paying it from my bank account. So I just want to put that out there. If you ever pay off something like a student loan or maybe any loan, just asking for that payoff letter and just keeping that, even if you digitize it.
Yeah. Other things, utility bills, you might want to keep them. If you need them to verify your identity, then you can just discard them monthly, especially if you've already paid it off. Receipts, warranty records, receipt for big ticket items. Some people keep the user's manual. When we moved into our home 2 years ago, the previous owner had a binder with all the user manual and installation guides from everything that they left in the house: the fridge, the washer and dryer, the fireplace, what else? The stove, the sprinkler system, everything. It was in a binder. And I was like, oh my gosh, can I be this person? It was just so convenient for us to take over the stuff in their house that came with the sale. Because they have everything there. I don't know how to restart a fireplace, when winter comes. And I was like, okay, The lady had everything in that binder, and I just looked at it and I crawled under there and turned on the pilot light, and I was using the fire. Oh, it was so convenient. So you might want to do that too. Warranties, like I said, receipts for big ticket items. If it's broken, some places they don't look for your receipt, but it's helpful unless you need it for tax related reasons. Really, there's no reason to keep receipts unless it's a really important thing for you in the long run. What else? Personal records, of course. You keep this forever. Your birth certificate, your marriage certificate, social security cards, life insurance documents, your will, power of attorney, these things you keep forever. Ideally, especially if you have a will, like we said earlier, it has to be, securely stored or be in a safekeeping of somebody such as your attorney. Property records, your deeds, your mortgage statements, insurance policies, your home insurance, for as long as you own the property or the life of the loan. And even or if your home is paid off, you will still want to hold on to those documents for at least 10 years. Okay. Now, those are a lot of paperwork. Those are a lot of documents. Like I said, sometimes it's overwhelming when we see all the paper. It's a lot of paper. But there's a way, right? Some things we need to have physical copies of, like there's no digital passports, right? Or, you can keep a digital copy of your birth certificate, but most places would want to see the original. But some things you can keep a digital copy of. So Vincenzo is going to talk about that in this next bit.
So I had a habit of like throwing things like in a box or someplace, things that I wanted to keep, and then I couldn't figure out where to find them when I needed to find that information that I remembered getting it in the mail, but like, where did I put it? So more and more, it's becoming easier to get electronic statements for things. And it's also, you're being more environmentally conscious, you're leaving a smaller footprint. And it's also in the best interest of the issuer because they save on paper, they save on postage. So they might be in your best interest as well. And of course, there are pros and cons to everything. Of course, it's easy to access if you have it digitally. You can monitor it. For example, if you're getting your statements, let's say, for example, for a credit card, and you can look at it right away instead of waiting for them to send you the statement, you might catch something a little bit sooner. If there's something, some kind of fraudulent activity going on, and it's also being environmentally aware, and trees will thank you, save a tree. Some of the cons about digital storage is the permanence, because oftentimes, like, for example, with my bank, I can't go and look at digital statements indefinitely. There's usually a limited period of time. I mean, I can go down there and pull it and save it on my own personal computer, but it's not going to be accessible to me on their website, forever. Also, security. If you are downloading and saving things as digital copies, it's only as good as the safety of your computer and all the paths leading up to where that file is. So you need to be mindful of that. And then internet availability. What if you have something that's only stored digitally, and let's say there's an emergency, and either you're nervous or your internet doesn't happen to be working, and you're not remembering where it is. All those kinds of things. So it can be a little bit of a barrier if you don't have reliable internet. Excuse me.
Can I share one thing about this access to internet? Christmas, we were traveling to not St. Anthony, Idaho Falls, to visit my sister. And we just took the exit somewhere in Blackfoot, and then we went back onto the ramp, and all of a sudden we got pulled over. Right. And so they look for your license, and the officer was looking for the insurance card. We just bought the car like 3 weeks. We just bought our van 3 weeks prior. So I was very confident that we have insurance, right, for the car. So I pull out my phone, right, and pull up the app. And for some reason, that specific spot on the I-5, I-15, I'm thinking California, I-15 was a dead spot. And I told the officer, can we like move like maybe 3 inches? And maybe I'll find signal. And I promise you, we have insurance. We just bought this van. And he's like, I'm sorry, I cannot let you move. This is where we pulled over. You can't move. You have to see it. So we were pulled over for speeding, for Pete's sake. So it's a movie violation. And he said, well, I'm going to write you up for speeding, plus because you don't have your insurance, a copy of your insurance with you. And I'm like, I swear, it's here. And I was like, I was this close to like shoving this to the officer's face, but I know I will go to prison if I did that. So I said, please let us move 3 inches. Maybe I'll find signal. And I was doing this. I swear to you, officer, it's here. We have coverage. So during the court hearing thing or whatever that my husband wanted to do, we had to send them a copy from Geico that we had insurance. And then that's the only time that was taken out of the thing. And we were just charged for over speeding. So print your cards, put a copy in your car. I don't know why I did not print that. I usually print it. Maybe because it's a brand new car. I don't know. But ease of access is yes, but when internet is gone, it's gone. You can't access it. So just a little story for you guys.
Yeah, that's a good one, Jeremy. Yeah. That happened to me when I had to get a registration. I lived in Hawaii, and they don't accept computer printouts of insurance cards because there's so much fraud for some reason there. It's printed on like holographic paper. And so I wasn't able to renew because they wouldn't accept it on my phone. So anyway, always good to have some things. You just have to have a paper copy of it as a backup. Some of the other pros and cons about digital storage is clutter. Whether it's in a box, a drawer, a file folder, a digital drive, it can still be clutter if it's not organized. You have to create, if you're going to be doing digital storage, making sure you create digital folders on your computer. And I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I do a lot of research and reading about security. And I also have a husband that works with cybersecurity. And I'm always curious to see what some financial experts are saying out there. And this other thing that I keep hearing over and over is having a dedicated laptop just for financial stuff. So that puts you at less risk of, if you have everything all on one computer, if something happened, people are now hijacking your computers and ransomware, all that kind of stuff, asking you. So I actually do have a Chromebook where I try to just access, when I log into my bank or it's just on one little laptop that doesn't have everything on it. So it's just something that I wanted to mention. Also your preferences, and habits matter, because if you're just not going to take the time to digitize things or scan them, and you're just more of a paper person, then, doing what you're likely to stick to is what really matters. It's just having some kind of organization. And you can do both. You can do some electronic and some paper. There are some things that we always have to have paper copy: birth certificates, social security cards, powers of attorney, passports, your title for your house, like Jeremy mentioned, your title for your car, some contracts. But I will say, for ease of retrieving some of these items, I think it's good to have a copy of it. For example, one story I had is I was moving overseas, and I was packing up all my stuff. I was in college at the time, and I actually packed my passport in one of my boxes. So when I had to get a new emergency passport, it would have been helpful if I would have had like a copy of it, because I would have had the passport number. And so some things, if you have a paper copy of it, it can just facilitate getting a new copy a little bit quicker. And then the other thing I want to mention is that reminders. So again, you can get your reminders through our email, with texts. Some people prefer the paper form of a statement. You like to have it as a reminder to pay your bills, for example. And others are just more comfortable setting everything digitally and just doing everything automatically on the computer, and just setting reminders through the actual whoever's issuing you the bill or the statement. So again, it's a personal preference. What matters, I think, the most is just having a system or some combination of systems that works best for you, whatever you're going to stick to. You can also consider backing up all of your important documents, like I had mentioned before, and just doing a digital scan of them, just to having them, because it's always possible for the physical documents to get damaged if you're only keeping them in your home. Again, it depends on how you store them. It's helpful. It's just, if you have a scanner at home and you can digitize or you can download things from wherever you're keeping or storing in your lockbox. That way you'll have backups if anything gets damaged or anything were to get lost, or you put it in a box that you're moving, for example, like what I did. You can also keep some copies of important documents that, you know, if you have a family attorney, if you have a relative, if you have a trusted friend. That way, if anything happens when you store your documents, it's, for example, if you had a fire or a flood, you know, it's somewhere else where it would be safe. Again, that's a personal preference of how you want. I think the important thing is just having a system, what works for you. So Jeremy's going to take over the next section.
Yeah, so I know we shared a lot, right? There's a lot of information, where to keep them, how long you keep them, you know, how to make it more accessible. But here's some helpful checklists for you. You know, your motivation behind organizing your documents is a really helpful standard when deciding which documents you need to keep, where you want to keep them, and you know, and how you want to keep them. Whether your goal is emergency preparedness, ease of access, or you know, you just want one less stressful thing to think about. So here are some helpful checklists for you to use for reference. So if you go to ready.gov, they have checklists for you to help you build an emergency plan, which then becomes an important piece of your recovery process post-disaster. So when we're thinking here of natural disasters, like maybe a flooding or an earthquake or what have you, especially when you're working with insurance. So if you go to this website, and when we send this recording and the copy of this presentation, we'll give you all these links. They have a checklist for documents you need to insure your property. They also have step-by-step checklist to help you safeguard your critical documents and valuables. If you go to consumerfinance.gov, they have a disaster checklist. So this helps you this checklist helps you create a strategy to keep your financial records in a safe place, in a safe spot in case of an emergency. It even encourages you to take photos room by room of what's in each room, right? What belongings you have in each room. It also gives you information about what you need to watch out for, you know, to avoid post-disaster. Because you know, when there's a disaster, there's people who like to take advantage. And so that their list also provides information for that, you know, how to avoid disaster chasing criminals who's out there to scam you. You know, they will come to your door and say, we'll repair this, but you pay us up front with this, or you give us this information, so you'll be on our list, things like that. So it's important for you to protect your financial information before something happens and after something happens. If you go to powerpay.org, we have some educational materials there, what to keep and how long. Like I said, we'll send these links to you as well. And then if you go to finance.usu.edu, we have there a little toolkit about organizing financial paperwork, which I would like to mention. If you come to our webinar on the 5th, so that's not next week, but the week after, that's a Monday, right? Monday, April 5th. We're going to go, we are going to talk about this is going to be a step-by-step process for you to be able to create a one-stop shop binder or what have you. It could be an electronic file even for your financial documents and important documents that we've talked about today. The concept behind this is for you to think of your household as a mini business, right? So a systematic plan to keep track of things that come into your home, the documents and the financial records that you have. If you have that organized strategically, you are going to save a lot of time. You're you're going to have less anxiety when something happens. It saves you hours of anxious searching. And hopefully, if you have that, then you'll be able to just grab that and go if you need to flee, or somebody can just grab that if you become incapacitated or something awful happens to you and that you're not able to do those things yourself, or say if you pass away or something unfortunate like that happens. So it will just make it easier for you and your family to cope with emergency situations. So a few couple things before we wrap up. 5 things we want to remind you: when in doubt, don't throw it out. Okay, this is the opposite of food, right? With food, if you're in doubt, if it looks weird, it's like, I don't know how long this has been in my fridge, throw that out. But for paperwork, when in doubt, keep it. Okay, because you'll never know. Use secure and strong passwords. If you're going digital, use a password manager if you can. Use strong and secure passwords. Never. This is a common practice for a lot of people. They use the same password for all of their accounts. Don't do that. Okay, it's easier for identity thieves to hack into your account because it's common. So secure and strong passwords. Use a password manager so you don't, because we forget. We just have to accept it that we forget things. Shred discarded documents. Shred them. Don't just toss them out into the recycle bin if it's white paper. Shred them. Okay, because some people, believe it or not, dumpster dive for information that might be on those financial records. Keep an updated inventory of which documents are stored where, so that you're looking for something and you go through the safe, you go to the bank, you go to the box, and you can't find it because you didn't know where you put it. So also keep an inventory of what documents you stored where. And then for both physical and digital storage, like we said, we've repeated this over and over throughout the last 30 minutes. Okay, make sure you do not put the only copy in just one place. A duplicate can save your life. Example, for our vaccine, I forgot my husband's driver's license, and they need identification. It just so happened that that I have copies of our driver's licenses in my phone, and they said, well, you can try. If it scans it, then you're fine. And they scanned it and we were able to get through, and my husband got his vaccine. True story. So now it's in my phone. I don't know how safe that is. I think it's not safe, because then if if I lose this, then my information is there. So that there might be a different way to keep a duplicate. I know some people keep a copy of their driver's license just in their car. That might not be best practice for everybody. But for most of the things, make sure that you have an extra copy somewhere else, securely stored away. Okay, so any questions, any thoughts? Right now, we know we talked a lot. We talked about a lot of things today, and we appreciate you staying on for the whole time. Like I said, we have the part 2 is on April 5th. If you want to register for that, go to finance.usu.edu/EFW to register. You can also register for our other webinars. We have our April webinars are listed on there. We're going to talk about a lot of financial spring cleaning. So those will be the main focus of our April webinars. Would love to hear your feedback. We are very appreciative of you joining us today. If you go to this link right here or scan this QR code, you will be taken to an evaluation survey. If you complete that, you'll be entered for a drawing. And at the end of the month, we draw names and we send prizes to our drawing winners. We would love to report, and we would love to know what you learn and what you plan to do as a result of this webinar, which maybe something you want to share with us today in the chat. If that's something you would like to do, we'd love to know what your plans are after learning all these things. So put that in the chat right now. We'd love to know. If you would like to follow us on social media, if you haven't been following us yet, we are on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, YouTube, at Utah Money Moms. We are also always sharing great insights on financial wellness on the blog, utahmoneymoms.com. And like we said earlier, if you want to register for webinars or even host a class for your community, you can go to finance.usu.edu/EFW to do those things. So Um, Thank you so much for attending today. This program is brought to you by grant funding. Like we said, we are partners with Utah State University Extension and the Utah Department of Workforce Services. We hope that this was a great experience for you. We'd love to have you again, and we are happy to have people come back. No, Jessica, it does. If you are from Utah, you don't have to pay anything to host a class, right? We will teach a class, we'll bring the resources, we'll bring the materials. You get at least 8 people together. If you go to our website, there's an intake form there for you to host a class. And then a member of our team will get back to you, and we'll get things going. We'll start something together and host a class for you and your community. Okay. So, any other questions before we part ways today? It's been a great experience, for, at least for us. We always like hosting these things. Um, if there's anything, if there's nothing, you can always email us. We will have our information on the follow-up email, which you will receive tomorrow. You will get a copy of this presentation and a recording as well. So thanks for being with us today. Have a great day, everybody.